It must be Friday because look, I'm out of coffee again. Good thing it's a review today because boys and girls, you know I love my coffee and I've drank this whole thing. So now I'm gonna need more. Look, we've made it through the week. I'm proud of you. Pat yourself on the back. Good job. You made it to Friday and it's a review lesson today, so it won't be painful. Hey, I want to remind you of two things before we get going together this morning. Number one, you'll notice on your slides there are links for a couple of games that you can play, multiplication and division. I know some people have already done it. My DJ has done it and loved it. I couldn't hardly get him off of there because he enjoyed it so much. And then guess what? Maddie hopped on. And would you believe that while we were on there, we actually saw Mrs. Whiting on there too? And then my kids had to race her. And then finally I told my kids, you have to stop playing games because we have to do our lessons. But it was a good game because it was remembering their multiplication facts and doing some division. So it was a good thing. And maybe you'll even encounter one of us teachers while you're playing on there. So I want to remind you about that. It's a great way, boys and girls, to recall those facts, kind of like what we would do in the classroom with our flashcards, but in a better, more fun way. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. It's on your slides for every day this week. So make sure that you take advantage of that time. Lastly, I want to remind you that this week we had a math test. And we talked about it on Monday, but you didn't have to take it. It just needs to be done by Sunday evening. So if you can make sure, get mom or dad's help or whoever. I know some of you are staying with grandparents and stuff as well. Get somebody to help you with that so you can get that math test taken so that we can get you a grade for that. All right, we're going to go ahead and go over these review pages here today. So hopefully your page looks like mine. We're on pages 263 and 264 today. We're going to kind of just do a little bit from each section. Some sections I'll do all of them with you since it's something that's still fairly new for us. The first thing I want to start with is number one up here. It says to draw a triangle around the whole numbers, a trapezoid around the fractions, and a right angle around the mixed numbers. All right, so I just want to do this a little bit at a time. So the first part of our directions say, draw a triangle around the whole numbers. Now this is just a regular number, okay? So let's look for those first and we'll go ahead and draw our triangles, all right? So first off, this is not just a whole number, but 16 is, so we're gonna draw a triangle around it. All right, this is a fraction, so that's not a whole number. Oh, right here, number 42 is a whole number, so we'll put our triangle there. This is a fraction, mixed number, and lastly, number 48 is a whole number. So we can go ahead and draw our triangle there. So we've done step one here. Step two, a trapezoid around the fractions, okay? So right here, and this has a fraction in it, but because it's a whole number plus a fraction, it's called a mixed number, so we're not ready for that yet. But 7/9 is a fraction, so we can draw our trapezoid. Let's see if Mrs. Pulte can draw that. We can draw a trapezoid there. All right, we already have that one taken care of. 1/2 is a fraction, so we can go ahead and draw our trapezoid. Mixed number here, mixed number there. So that's it for the trapezoids. And then lastly is a right angle around the mixed number. So here we have a mixed number. So you just draw a right number, right angles where it has that box there at the corner. And then another right angle for this mixed number. And then another right angle for that mixed number there. All right. Next, look here. At number 2, we're rounding to the nearest dollar. This is the lesson from Tuesday that I got to teach to you. So think back to that day when we talked about rounding to the nearest dollar. There were a couple of things we remembered. The first one was this: we round to the nearest dollar, the cents just become 0. The second thing we had to remember is if it's from 1 cent to 49 cents, it stays. Those cents become 0, but the dollar amount stays. And then the next thing we had to remember is if it was from 50 cents to 99 cents, the cents still drop off, but the dollar goes up 1 number. So let's remember those things as we go through here. All right, so letter A is $3.11. So this is what I'm looking at, okay? 11 cents is going to fall in that first part, 1 cent to 49 cents. So that means it stays. So the 3 stays. and the cents just become 0. Okay, $9.99. This is what we're interested in. That falls into that second category, which means we have to go up 1. Okay, so up 1 from 9 would be $10, and our cents just go to 0. Letter C, $5.50. Don't let them trick you. We're going to look right here. This is in that second category, because remember the first category just goes up to 49 cents, and our second category starts with 50 cents. This is 50 cents. So for 50 cents, we're going to round up 1. Okay, so this is going to become $6. All right, we have 2 more, $12.48. So we're looking here at the 48 cents. That's going to fall into that first category, 1 cent to 49. This is 48, so we're going to stay, okay? So 12 is going to stay, and our cents will just drop off zeros. And then lastly, letter E, $6.35. This is what we're concerned with. That's going to fall into that first category, 1 cent to 49 cents. And if it's there, we stay. Okay, so then $6 stays, and our cents drop to 0. And that's again because we're rounding to the nearest dollar. Okay? All right, you have a story problem here. I think you'll do fine with that. And then over here for section 5, you're going to be writing in the quotients. Remember that a quotient is an answer to a division problem. So you're going to be working on those today. And then here for section 3, we have our Roman numerals. Hopefully on Tuesday I'll also talk to you about Roman numerals. Maybe you remember my saying, maybe you have one of your own. But I'm going to write it here. We have I vacuum extra large carpets during math. Okay, and that'll help me remember 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000. All right, so for letter C, that would be 100. So we're just going to draw a line to the 100 there. M is our last one. That's our highest one. That one's 1,000. So then that one just gets to go right here. Okay. Now here we have L and V. So we're just going to add these two together. So we have 1, 5, 10, 50. And then we know that V is 5. So we have 55. It's nice when the answers are right here in front of you. It'll help you out. All right, we have IX, okay? So since the I comes before the X, this is one of those situations where you have to subtract. So we know that I is 1 and 10, excuse me, I gave you the answer. X is 10, so we have to do 10 minus 1, which would give us 9. So that would go right here. All right, here we have XX, which is 10, plus 10 would be 20. And then we have our 1 in front of our 5. So we have to subtract again. So 5 minus 1 is 4. So we have 24, which goes there. And then lastly, we have an X, a C, and an I. So X is going to be a smaller one, so another subtraction situation. So C is 100 minus 10 would be 90, plus our 1 would be 91. So remember, I vacuum extra large carpets during math. I think Miss Nally says for Dad and Mom, but however you can remember it is totally fine, but it'll help you to do those Roman numerals. All right, would you flip your page over to page 264? And let's, I want to do one of these. You know, I was like Mrs. Whiting when she said she needed somebody to clean her board. We have housekeeping in my class, and when I say I need a housekeeper, boy, they come running. They've got our gray cloth here. They wipe everything down for me, but now I'm having to do it for myself. So I'm missing my students and my helpers to help me with those things. Okay, let's take a look here. Now, one thing I want you to note when you're doing section 6 here is they're telling you to divide, but then they're also telling you something else. Write the remainder as a fraction. This is something we've kind of been practicing with, so I want to make sure that we don't forget that part today as we're working. All right, let's take a look at letter A together. Remember your 5 steps of division. You've got divide, multiply, subtract, compare, and bring down. All right, so is there anything times 7 that will give us 3? There's not. We can't even use 1 because that would be too high. So since we're preparing for 4th grade, instead of putting a 0, we're just going to leave it alone and go to the next number. So now we're looking at what times 7 will give us 39 or get us close to 39 without putting us over, and that would be 5. we're going to put our 5 up here. 5 times 7 is 35. And next we're going to subtract. So we have 9 minus 5 is 4. Now we need to compare. Is 4 less than 7? Yes, it is. So we can bring down our 3. So I need something times 7, which will either give me 43 or get me close. What would that be? 6. So I'm going to put my 6 here. 6 times 7 is 42. 43 minus 42 is 1. We need to compare. Is 1 less than 7? Yes, it is. So then I can bring down my 6. All right, what times 7 will give me 16 or get me close? We're going to go with 2. So we'll put our 2 up here. 2 times 7 is 14. 16 minus 14 is 2. Now I don't want to forget my second part of my instructions, which told me I needed to write my remainder as a fraction. So typically we would have just written remainder 2, and now that they want us to do it as a fraction, we're simply going to bring our divisor over here and put it underneath. So our answer would read 562 remainder of 2/7. Hopefully you can remember that. Okay, so when you're writing with the putting the fraction up, boys and girls, you do not have to have the R here. So you know, but that is the way you would read it. 562 and 2/7 would be your answer. Okay. Make sure on section 7 here that you're following the signs. I always tell my students they're trying to trick you. They want you to mess up. Don't let them trick you, boys and girls. We have some adding and some subtracting that you're doing, and then down here you're simply going to write the temperatures. Now I want to make mention of the section here at the bottom of your page on page 264. There's a little bit of homework. I know you've been working hard this week, but in order to keep up and to do well on your test, I would recommend taking a look at those. It's going to be good for you to do those there to have that extra help and just practice on those math problems, okay? So 2 things I reminded you at the beginning. I'm going to remind you here at the end as well. Those games that we have for you for multiplication and division, they're fun. Like I said, I couldn't get my kids off of them. And they encountered Mrs. Whiting on there, so you never know who you're going to see. Maybe another classmate, maybe a teacher, I'm not sure. But that's even something you could do on Saturday. You don't have to just do it during school time. You could even do it if you're sitting around looking for something fun to do. You could do those as well. And don't forget that that math test has to be done by Sunday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.